ETL, extract, transform, load. This is a standard practice all GTM or data teams follow for building a prospect or a lead database. But what we have observed is that this process often leads to a huge chunk of data sitting on CRM with comparatively less action being taken. So what do we do when we have a huge database of leads and we want to act on all of those data? The answer here is reverse ETL. And let's quickly understand what this is. Now, when we talk about our basic ETL process, that is wherein, say, for example, we are collecting the data from multiple sources, enriching it, then we are transforming it that into, say, the cleaning or standardization process, and finally we are loading it onto a CRM or any particular data warehouse. And what sales team often do is that they use that data to then create analytics or dashboard, but that's a later part. Let's say consider the part up to extracting the data, having that stored or loaded onto the CRM. Now, what happens post this is still something that is dependent on the salesperson or the GTM operator. What we would want to do is in converting this effort into actionable items or actionable movements. So that's where the concept of reverse ETL comes in. Wherein what we are doing is that we are going backwards. We are taking in the enriched data, we are transforming it, qualifying it, and then loading it not onto the CRM itself, but onto different action items or activation channels. Like for example, if I have a data set of leads that are coming in from my Google Ads, I would start with first of all enriching that data, because I know that whatever data comes in from a Google form that is running through an ad will be having very limited information about my lead. I would enrich that using any tool like Clay or Apollo or Lucia to get that complete data set created. Finally, what I would do is that I would update all of that data onto my CRM, check if there are any duplicates or not. Once that is done, I would immediately want to start with my outreach. So for that, I can integrate the various tools or start with my email marketing workflow itself. At the same time, I would also want to notify, see, my sales folks that, okay, this is a new lead that has come in from this channel, so you should immediately approach them. So that is exactly what reverse ETL does. Now, what we have done is we have built a complete n8n use case and a workflow that works in terms of solving this entire problem using a mix of the ETL and reverse ETL version. What we are considering over here is that we have, say, two data sources. We have our Google Ads data, where we have the first name, last name, the email, the basic company details, the source of that particular campaign present. Then we have our Clay enriched data, that is, say, created based on our ICP, plus we have enriched certain further data points, seeing whether that company is funded or not, what is their tech stack, if there is any intent signal that we are able to find in that. And we have done the ICP scoring as well. If you see the difference between these two data sets is, one is a basic data set that is not enriched, not qualified, and not scored. Then we have a data set that's completely enriched and scored. So what we are going to do is we have this entire workflow created on editing, where we are starting with two simple triggers. One is we are inputting our Google sheet that has the ad leads. What we are starting with is we are validating, say, the email and the company level details. Then we are enriching all of that data using various tools. We can use either Clearbit or Phantom Buster by just simply inputting the LinkedIn profiles and then getting all of those details ready. Or if we are looking to, say, enrich funding level details or any other sort of details as well, then we can directly link this to a Clay table which does the enrichment, and then finally we have our output data. Further, once, say, we have that data enriched, what we are doing is we are normalizing all of those enriched fields, where we are specifically mentioning all of those things that we require, like, say, funding and revenue and the tech stack of the company. Finally, what we are doing is that we are scoring it as per a set logic. Now for this, we have used certain code in place over here just to do a simple fitment score. So what this code does is it based on three or four different parameters, like, say, the employee count, the industry match, and the revenue scoring, it scores. So say if there is an employee count greater than 200, then it scores 30. That is how the entire logic is set or created over here. And same goes for the other parameters as well to finally give us a complete ICP score. The reason why we need an ICP score is that whatever data that we are able to scrape or whatever leads that are coming in, it's not necessary that all of those leads will be relevant. So we want to prioritize on the leads that match the ICP much better, and we are able to get a better output. Similar to this workflow. So if you can see over here, we have started with the entire extraction and transformation process right here. Then when we talk about, say, a data that's coming in from Clay, now we already know that that is enriched data, that is a transformed data. So what we are doing over here is we are just simply checking that if the fields are standardized or not. And once that is done, we are merging the data of these two sources, removing the duplicates based on the email ID or the LinkedIn profile, whatever is our identifier. And finally, we are routing them based on whether that lead needs to go into a qualified funnel or nurture funnel, or do we need to retry the enrichment for that particular lead. Now, if you see, I'll focus on the last part once, because primarily what happens is whenever we enrich any data, there is bound to be certain data which will have blanks in it or which will be incomplete. We have seen that a lot of data teams often just leave that data aside and focus on the fully enriched data. But you never know that that incomplete data might actually be relevant for you. It's just that there are these missing fields that need to be enriched again. So our advice over here is that for any person who is in the GTM space or sales or B2B sales, they should always focus on those data as well, that is saying not going further in the funnel, to see that what is the issue over there and if that can be transformed into useful data or not. Now coming back to say the earlier two sequences. When we talk about the qualified sequence, what are we doing over here is we are loading that data right here onto the CRM. At the same time, next is the most important part. That is the entire objective of having the reverse ETL motion. That is determining that, okay, what is the next step after that data is stored onto the CRM. That's wherein we would say want to do the outreach. So to determine over here on the basis of what level of outreach would we want to do, right? Once say the CRM update is done. So we set up the sequence ID, we set up all of those details over here. And finally, we send that data to an email outreach tool or a LinkedIn outreach tool like Instantly, Lemlist, Apollo or Lucian. Finally, what we are doing is that once this sequence gets initiated, we notify the sales team on Slack saying that, okay, this is your lead, this is how, the message will go to them. This is a new qualified lead with this particular name. And all you need to do is just check that data onto the CRM, and whatever is the next action item, you need to take that. So that is how what we are doing over here is that we are mixing the initial part of ETL and the latter part of reverse ETL to have an end-to-end cycle where our data is not just getting enriched and scored, but it is even being acted upon by running an email or a LinkedIn outreach. This was about it. This was about how you can use this concept of reverse ETL to streamline your data and outreach processes. So if you found this concept interesting, or if you found this workflow very interesting, then please do like and subscribe to the channel. If you have anything more like this, then please do put up in the comment. And thank you so much for watching this video.